One of the most commonly asked questions I get in the YouTube comment section and in the stream chat are typically questions along the lines of, "Hey Sealord, I'm thinking about grinding up to this ship, do you think it's worth it?" Or, "Hey Sealord, I'm looking for a new Techline or a new ship to grind to. What do you think I should go for?" Well, we are going over that in today's video with my top 5 must-grind Techline ships. So of course, the ships in this video I believe are 127% worth the grind you have to put in to get them, and of course we will go over each ship as we get to them. But before that, if you have ever wondered if those Stanley Cups that you see so many people buying are actually worth anything, we tested those in Sunday's video where we set to find out if they are bulletproof. Why? Because I thought it would be fun. It was really fun filming, and we had a blast doing it. So if you want to check that out, you can check out yesterday's video. I'll put a link to it right here. So yeah, if you want to know if the Stanley Cups are bulletproof or not, check that out. Anyway, going on. So again, these are my top 5 Techline grinds that I would highly suggest to you guys. If you do find this video enjoyable or helpful or informational, please make sure to drop a like and leave a comment down below and subscribe while you are down there. So anyway, on to number 5. We have the Tier 10 American Heavy Cruiser, the Des Moines. The Des Moines is, well, it's an old ship, but man, does she still perform in today's World of Warships. Now, she's at number 5 because she is old, and you probably think, well, Celia, you just said she still does well, and she does, but conditions do have to be correct in order to get the most out of her. And when those conditions are correct, you are really going to make some magic happen with the Des Moines. And Des Moines' whole shtick is that she has these amazing auto-loading 203mm 8-inch guns. They are amazing. You get the American Super Heavy AP with the improved pin angles and the high alpha, and it is one of the most just downright terrible things that you can do in this game is going broadside to a Des Moines, because you are going to get just torn apart by her guns, especially if the Des Moines driver is smart enough to smack the 2 button, because it doesn't matter if you are in a battleship or a cruiser or whatever, you're going to have a very bad day with your broadside to a Des Moines. Even destroyers, obviously, they don't want to be spotted by a Des Moines either, because they can swap it over to the HE and just melt you with the auto-loading capabilities of the Des Moines. So she's all about her guns. Now, that is where a lot of her strengths do lie. Her hull isn't that tanky. If you look at the ship, she stands up out of the water. Her citadel is not exactly well defended, shall we say. So when you are exposing yourself to enemy battleship fire, you're not going to have a good day. But that's where hugging your island comes into play here. As you can see in the background footage, for most of this match, I'm playing in and around islands, parked next to one, using the islands to either sit behind and lob my shells over using the American shell arcs, or, just absolutely scraping my paint along the edge of the island in order to make sure I am protecting my weak bits as I kind of poke, the front or the stern of my Des Moines out and get my guns on target. And this is typical Des Moines gameplay. But that is also where her weaknesses do lie in today's World of Warships. I mean, we have submarines now that if they catch you, sitting on an island, being relatively still, you're going to have a terrible time. We have airstrikes now, like with the Tromp and the Dutch cruisers, right? They can just call those in and, nuke you as you sit there. And obviously, CV, skip bombers especially, are most painful to the Des Moines. She does have decent AA, mainly when you have DFAA going, but it's not good enough to, ward off, obviously, a lot of the CVs that we have today, including super CVs, right? So when those things either aren't on your flank or aren't paying attention to you, the ship still does amazingly well. And even if those things are on your flank and are paying attention to you, if you stay on the move and instead of hugging your island, kind of run around in between islands, she can and still will do very well. And on top of that, she has hydroacoustic search, or DFAA, and radar, the good old 10-kilometer American radar. The ship has a lot going for her, and I would highly recommend grinding up to her even still today. Or of course you could pick up the Salem, which is, the premium version, but there's some differences there. But yes, Des Moines, still well worth the grind in my opinion. So that takes us down now to number 4, where we have the Tier 10 German battlecruiser, the Schlieffen. Now, the Schlieffen is just fun. She is so much fun. The whole line, up and down, from the very beginning of the German battlecruiser line up to the Schlieffen, it's just a ball of fun to play. These ships are so overly specialized into brawling that they are still very good battleships in today's World of Warships because they're so just overly specialized into brawling. And I know I just said that, but that's this whole line's thing. There's no other way to play them. Build into secondaries and smack W. They can and will make it happen. Now, I'm not saying obviously go run into 5 enemy ships at the same time, but there are instances where I've just ran at the enemy team and my Schlieffen and I've won. And it's just like, oh my god, how did that happen? These ships are absurd with their capabilities. So I say the Schlieffen because, again, I would recommend the whole line. The whole line's great. But the Schlieffen is obviously the best one because it is the Tier 10. You have just an obtuse amount of secondary guns on your ship, especially the Schlieffen. We're literally entering like Spanish galleon number of guns on the Schlieffen. It's got that many guns. It's like 30-something secondary guns per side, which is insane. They have a very fast reload rate. If you build into them with your secondaries, you can get these secondary guns out to your detection range if you take the commander skill. So basically, when you are spotted in a Schlieffen, if you can spot whatever's spotting you, they are in the danger zone, and they are going to get shredded. And there's not many a more scarier experience in the game than being a destroyer on the receiving end of a Schlieffen's broadside of secondary guns, because they just never stop. Like, you'll sink the Schlieffen, and you still got like 20 seconds of secondary shells in the air coming at you. It's just so goofy. They're also fast. The Schlieffen, for example, can go 35 knots, has hydroacoustic search. It has those wonderful torpedoes that can get out to 12, well, not get out to, they are, 12 kilometer torps. They are slow. They are the sea mine torpedoes, if you will, but they do what they're supposed to do. I mean, like in a drive-by, it doesn't really matter that they're incredibly slow torpedoes from 2 kilometers away. They're going to get there one way or another, and they're going to give you the oomph that you need in order to murder whomever you are driving by. And the ships do have downsides, obviously. They are battle cruisers, so they have less HP than their same tier battleship counterparts, and their armor is thinner, right? So they can very easily get smacked if you are being a little bit too audacious with it, and you definitely don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're engaging the enemy battleships from like maximum range, because you have smaller caliber guns for your tier, and they generally don't have the best accuracy. Again, they're meant to be played from secondary range inward, which is why they're at number 4, because while they do work in today's World of Warships, there are of course going to be those matches where you can't really get too much done in them because the match just doesn't ever evolve to the point to where you can run at the enemy team, but they still can make it work, and they're just so much fun. So I would highly recommend grounding up to them as a fun line. Maybe not your first line should be, your first line shouldn't be the Schlieffen line, right? Like your 3rd or 4th battleship line, I would say go for them because, again, they're just a lot of fun. All right, going now down to number 3, we have the Castilla, the Tier 10 Spanish cruiser. Spanish cruisers are a line that I really don't see in game as much as I would expect. They are pretty good cruisers. I enjoy them. I mean, I still see the occasional Castilla here and there, and some of the other Techline ships along the way. Every now and then I'll see them pop up on either my side or the enemy team side, which is really odd because they're really, really good cruisers in my mind. Are they like the best of the best? Maybe not, but you do get some pretty nice guns at higher tier. The Castilla, it's actually just like a Napoli, but like not Napoli at higher tier. The hull's the same. They did this thing because I think once or twice in Spain's naval history they borrowed designs from the Italians, and I think they were even planning on buying a Vittorio class battleship from the Italians, so Wargaming just took that and ran with it with some of these higher tier Spanish cruisers, and some of the Spanish destroyers that we're probably going to be getting in game as well. But anyway, yeah, so the Castilla is a Napoli, but it's more tooled for, main battery performance rather than secondaries, which if you look at the Castilla, she does have actually the German 128s on there, but unfortunately they don't really have the range or the reload to do too much. But anyway, these ships are all about the main battery guns because you get some larger guns at at these higher tiers. Castilla's got 254s, and as you do notice, she does get a funny button. She does get that auto-loading feature or reload booster, whatever the hell you want to call it, alternative firing mode, where you get 2 salvos very quick back to back, which is great when you catch those other cruisers that slip up and show your broadside. You hit the funny button, you get 2 salvos on them back to back, and again, these are 254s. These are some pretty powerful guns. You get 2 salvos of these guns back to back, and that's going to ruin anybody's day if most of those shells connect. And the flip side of that too is that with HE against destroyers, they pop up, you go into your alternative firing mode, you get 2 very quick salvos on those destroyers, and that is going to very much ruin their day. Does also have torpedoes as well, and it is a Napoli hull. It's not, I don't find it to be as tanky as a Napoli, but it's still fairly tanky if you can angle and keep your distance from the enemy ships. But if you can't keep your distance from the enemy ships and get close in, the ship's also pretty good for that too. I mean, again, she is a tier 10 cruiser with torpedoes and with large guns and with the alternative firing mode. Again, can very much make it work at close range, especially against other cruisers. If you can dodge the other cruisers' torpedoes, if they do have that, and she does get hydroacoustic search for that as well. That does also make her a bit better for dealing with submarines too, compared to those cruisers that don't have hydroacoustic search. Very helpful to have that when you get pinged, because cruisers have the shorter homing range stop distance than like the battleships do, so knowing where those torpedoes are coming from is obviously a big up. And of course, if you ever find yourself near a submarine, you can hydro it and then drop your ASW on top of it. So yeah, a line that I'm really surprised we don't see more of these ships in game. They're, again, really solid cruisers in my mind. They're one of the more interesting new cruiser lines that we've gotten the past couple of years, so yeah, I would very much recommend grinding them. Alright, going down to number 2, we have the Tier 8 Italian destroyer, the Cuniberti. Now, the Italian destroyers are a very, very interesting line. For just about every single other line in this game, you always want to, get to high tier pretty much as fast as you can, because that's where most of the good ships are at, like Tier 8 plus. Really, with the Italian destroyers, that's where the good stuff stops. The Tier 9 and the Tier 10 Italian destroyers aren't really that great, especially in comparison to their lower tier counterparts. I know they have been tweaking the Regalo and whatever the Tier 9 is for some time now. They've been getting some small buffs, but again, the mid-tier Italian destroyers are just so amazing. Why? SAP. That's why. You see, the SAP munition type is, well, it's HE that's coded to have a negative fire chance, right? But it has crazy high alpha. It works very similar to HE, as in, it doesn't penetrate like AP, so you don't have to penetrate the ship's armor as much to get your maximum alpha out with SAP. So when you have ships with either thinly armored extremities or thin belt armor, you can shoot into the bow or stern of the ship, or the upper belt armor of the ship, again, depending upon what ship we're talking about, or the superstructure, and you get these full pins with your big alpha that you get on your SAP munition, and that means these ships are excellent at murdering destroyers. And because their SAP alpha is so high, these ships tend to have long reload times. Well, for about Tier 8 down, these ships are just absolute destroyer bullies. They will murder just about any other destroyer that they meet, same tier, unless it's like a fully dedicated Daka boat. Like maybe like the Japanese gunboats, right? Those might give you a run for your money. But with the SAP alpha, these ships just bully other DDs and will murder them. So you go to a cap, you protect it with your life, you kill 2 or 3 destroyers, especially at like Tier 6 to Tier 7, the Italian destroyers are quite frightening. You can easily murder 3 destroyers without even like breaking a sweat. They also have a higher HP pool than average at their tier, so you have that going for you too. And if you get tired of murdering destroyers, you do also have like half of Apollo Emilio here, because you get the exhaust smoke and you get the engine boost that the Paulo Emilio gets. Well, not the exact same one, but you get the combination. And you still have torpedoes. However, you don't get the very high alpha torpedoes that the Paulo Emilio gets. So you can probably finish off like, a battleship that's down like 3/4 HP. Pop your smoke, pop your engine boost, rush to within 2 kilometers of them, dump your torpedoes, and then run away laughing. You can still kind of do that with these ships, but again, they gotta be kind of damaged battleships, and you can very much do it to cruisers and such too, so they're a fun line. I really wouldn't recommend going up to higher tier unless you're a highly experienced destroyer player, because again, the Regalo and the tier 9, it's just, by that point, the other destroyer lines have caught up in their DPM to where now they're just outgunning you because their reload rate is so much faster than your reload rate with your main battery guns. So yeah, stay like tier 8 below the Italian destroyers and you're going to have a great time bullying other destroyers. And that brings us down to our numero uno, which is the tier 10 Japanese battleship, the Yamato. What more need be said about the Yamato that hasn't been said already? The Yamato is, again, one of the oldest battleships in game. I say that because her and the Montana came out at the same time when the game fully released, so they're tied for oldest battleship in the game, right, along with their respective Techline ships that were out at the same time. So she's an oldie, but man, she's still got it. 9 18.1 inch 460 millimeter guns that don't care about 32 millimeters of armor. And that means she can overmatch pretty much most of what she can see. Now, like today, obviously, with some of the super ships, some of the armor schemes that we're getting on some of these super ships, even some of the Techline ships, obviously that's kind of, not really ruined her ability to do that, but there's less ships that she can do it to proportionally today than, back in the day when she really just did not care about armor at all. But yes, there are some sweet 18-inch guns, 18.1-inch guns, and she's one of the very few battleships that I do recommend picking up her legendary module for, because you can rein in that Japanese battleship dispersion even further with the Yami's legendary mod. But yeah, it's all about the guns here with the Yami. If you enjoy mid-range to long-range gameplay, definitely one of the best ones for that. Not to be saying that she can't play at mid to closer-ish range. She can if you're very careful about her. What I usually like to do is I'll stick to like mid to longer-ish range for like the first half of the match, and then once I see, either my flank's falling or the enemy team's flank is falling, then I'll get a little bit closer, and at that point you have a very healthy tier 10 battleship, because the Yami's armor at range is awesome. You're probably not going to Citadel one of these things from range because of our armor scheme, but once you do close in to closer range, then yeah, armor scheme isn't that great, and she can very much get Citadel quite easily by a fair few tier 10 battleships at close range, which is why you don't push in, obviously, again, until that second half of the match when the enemy team's flank is collapsing or your flank is collapsing, and you kind of, gotta get in there, right? And then, yeah, she can get it done from closer-ish range. I'm not saying she's a brawler, I'm just saying if needed to, she can. But, I mean, yeah, this ship is just the premier sniping battleship, or probably, just the premier battleship. If you think, like, how a battleship is meant to battleship, you're probably thinking of the Yami. Great tank at longer ranges, smacking fools with her 18.1-inch guns, and big, slow, feels like a battleship when you're trying to maneuver with her. She's just great all around. I mean, again, this ship's been around for forever, so I don't think I really need to explain too much about why she's amazing. But yes, absolutely, I would recommend grinding up the Yami line. The line up and down is pretty decent as well. She has a couple of pitfalls here and there with the line, but most of the ships are great. Congo's really fun at tier 5. The Amagi is one of the best tier 8 battleships in the game, in my opinion. So, all in all, a great line up and down. So guys, those are my top 5 must-grind Techline ships. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are your top 5 must-grind Techline ships? What do you agree with me on? What do you disagree with me on? Again, let me know all that in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday and wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.